Thanks for staying with us. Now, the 2015 Auditor General's report has revealed huge overpayments for road contracts by the erstwhile Mahama administration. According to the Roads Ministry alone, they paid up to 100 million cedis to contractors when the actual cost of the contract was supposed to be $75 million. This was the major highlight of the Corruption Watch segment of the Super Morning Show today. Host Kojo Yangson discussed these issues with former senior partner of KPMG, JoyNews.
No, the Auditor General has not made any mistake. What it is that there is now impunity in the approach to, being corrupt. Because human beings being who we are, if you can get away with anything, you will. And that's exactly what is happening. Because when you take roads and highways, this is the major infrastructure. And it takes a lot of cash. We have to budget for it, and we have to make provision for it, make the cash available. And the inspectors, those who are going to ensure that the road has been properly done, are all well positioned in order to do their job. But it's become a facade. It means that, what is this? So I needed 20 million more. Okay, go and pad it. We have this to be paid, and go and pad it, and go and pad it. Because previously, the Auditor Generals have not really taken serious action. And neither have the government or PAC or whatever. They've all taken it for granted that, it doesn't matter. It's like won't change it. And that is the problem we are having at the moment. And if we don't check it now, then it means that we have opened the floodgates for anyone at all to, corruption per se. I always try to define corruption by saying that corruption itself is not, a generalized thing like corruption, because the taxi driver can, be corrupt. Anybody can be corrupt. It depends on the magnitude and the areas. That is why we call it corruption in government. There's corruption in the private sector and what have you. And if we encourage corruption in the public sector to this extent, and then we are going to also collaborate with the private sector like what they've done. That's a combination. Both the private and the public sector have been implicated in this scandal. Then it means that we are really breaking down the economy. If you look at, I was impressed with Nigeria. Nigeria wanted to go for this sale of oil blocks. I was watching the TV and I couldn't believe that this is Nigeria. The 254 proposals were all brought into the chamber. And as every one of them was called, they examined that and put it aside. It means qualified. Now, the minister before his introduction said, look, Nigeria is on a war path. We are new. No more are we going to tolerate the bad behavior we're doing. So if any bidder here has given money to any official outside, just go and collect money, because you won't get, you won't be getting that particular, benefit that you used to get. And it's quite impressive. I don't expect us to fight corruption in total. It's going to be humanly impossible. Secondly, we are now starting. We don't even have the resource, the human resource that is going to be fighting it that much. So I believe that we can start on a smaller scale and move on and move on. By the time we realize we've been able to tackle it, because really, this road thing, urban roads and highway, that is completely ridiculous, because it's fraud. For lack of a better word, it's fraud.
Do you think this could be done on the blind side of the contractors? These 24 companies, for example, that the ministry claims we owe money to. Could it be that these companies have taken their payment and have no idea that the ministry is seeking to go and claim another payment in their name?
All that I would do was to go and confront these companies. And if they give an indication that they are in the know, that they are owed, then they are companies. But if they show surprise, who said, this is my documentation, this is the work I did, this is my certificate, and so on, then it means that they've been indicated they even have a right, to accost the ministry. But as it is now, I'll be very surprised if those companies have no idea as to what was going on. And I said, oh, this was a bonanza that was given to them, and they've taken it. But I don't believe that the government should let this go, including all the rest of the, we are all jumping for joy when Hamidu was appointed. But Hamidu cannot and will not be in a position to fight this corruption by himself. He's not a Superman. Maybe he will be going into the legal aspect and investigating some of it, but he's going to need accountants, he's going to need engineers, he's going to need... And we've got to make the funds and the resources available for us to be able to fight it. Because if we don't fight it now, we're going to compound the problem.
Now, I'm also curious about how deep this rot must go within the ministry. Is it possible that this will be happening at a lower level and that perhaps chief directors and the minister might not be aware of some of these things? Or is it even possible for someone to make a claim, a double claim like this, without a chief director participating, or without the minister being aware, being complicit? Is it possible?
That is very difficult, because for a simple reason that we have levels of authorization, and we don't just pay. Like the supplier comes and says, oh, these are my invoice. It's got to go through a process. Before even initiated, there's a contract. So there must have been a contract issue. And the contract will specify all that is needed to be done. Before you even talk about the initial commencement fee and so on and so forth. So it means that there's an authorized person who is approving the contract. And there will be someone else who authorized payments after satisfying themselves that the certificates have been well issued. So it's going to be very difficult to say that unless you don't have a system. If you don't have a procedure or system, we are Makola, so it's quite okay. But provided we have the normal procedures with controls involved in it, there's no way anyone can say that, the bosses don't know about it. No.
That is curious, because I do know that one of the general practices, I don't know if it's prescribed by law or if it's just a convention, but one of the general practices in government here in Ghana is that for contracts of a certain value, only the minister can approve them. If that is the reality, and I'm guessing this first payments,
yes.
If that is the reality, then is it possible for the minister to approve one payment, have it done, and in this case even an overpayment?
Yes.
Because the debt was 70-something million, but they paid 100 million
yes.
and above.
That's right.
Is it possible for the minister to approve that payment and then someone else in the ministry ministry then makes a request for the same amount to be paid again?
You know, that is unless we don't have records and books of accounts. Because as soon as payments are made, they go into the books. They are entered as payments with a description of what it is for and who authorized and what have you. So if the minister has already paid, his approval will have to go through the process of scrutiny. The minister is not God, neither is he ultimate, or does he own the country. So definitely somebody has got to check that. And when they check and they realize that the minister has erred, he's in trouble. In any normal, sane country, that minister is finished. But I don't know whether we have a different sort of ministerial processes of appointment, or procedures are different, I don't know. But honestly, it doesn't happen anywhere. So if anybody else goes to try and repeat the payment, I mean, what are you telling the public? It means that, and that is the more reason why I feel sorry for the Auditor General, because maybe the Auditor General has so much patience that is able to slowly go about it. But maybe some other Ghanaians will just pull out the dagger and go and finish them up, because, you know, they are not able to buy medication, they are not able to, all because of this thievery which is going on. Yes. I won't call it corruption or, you know, it's thievery, you know, warrior.
Well, I certainly hope it doesn't come to daggers being pulled. I hope we can find a solution, which brings me to my next question. How do we plug these loopholes? How do we make sure that the new batch of leadership that has come in doesn't come and repeat this same thievery, as you call it?
Actually, it's very simple for us to have systems, documented systems and procedures, and adhere to the compliance of the systems. And if anybody deviates from the system or from the procedure, the person is dealt with. If we were to do that, we will realize that any payment or disbursement that goes through would have gone through the processes that have been well defined. And if they don't go through, then they have to answer for it. So we can check that with the procedures and, you know, systems that we'll put in place, and we should be able to have a, you know, a well-run system going forward.
You said something instructive at the beginning. You said that whatever a person can get away with, they will do.
Yes.
And considering the amount of money at stake, considering the amount of leeway that the system seems to give those in authority, for which reason what we saw in this report could even happen. What is the incentive to the new leadership to do anything different? After all, chances are they can also get away with it if they went down the same path or did even worse.
No, you are right. You are right. They might be getting away with it already, you know, because maybe we are not checking it or we are talking about it and that's the end of it. But if we have to sensitize them, I believe that, you know, all our Ghanaian employees are working, one, for money. All this Ethiopian giving back and, you know, trying to, what do you call it, save my country and, you know, all those, you know, hip-hop, that's what I call them, hip-hop songs. You know, it doesn't really apply. They've got to be well rewarded. I mean, let's face it, if I have an Auditor General and that Auditor General is charged with checking from minister right down And then you are paying that Auditor General 2,000 Ghana cedis and so on, and say, oh, it's your country, for the love of your country. I mean, I don't know what an American would describe it, but, you know, so that is where we are suffering from. We've got to sensitize and educate our people that we've got to reward, you know, our people who are doing the job, the risk, the hours, the sacrifices, and so on. We've got to show appreciation by rewarding them adequately. And that is what is going to even prevent them from, you know, being tempted. Because if you are well rewarded, unless you are greedy, but if you are well rewarded, you are. If you visit, take a look at the private enterprises, you know, that we have, even in Ghana. You will be amazed at the reward system within the private sector. Because, let's face it, I mean, you drag me after all the positions I've occupied and say, you know, in the name of, you know, the Holy Book and so on, come and do this and we'll give you $5,000 or something. I'll just say, you know what, in the name of this thing, I'll do it for free, because I might take it as an insult. And that is where we've got to take a look at, you know, and it goes for most of our professions. I don't know how much Amedu is going to be paid, but if I want to call a figure, it's going to be scary.
But then scarily high or scarily low?
Scary, very high, because for the simple reason that if we are going to save 50 million a week from Hamidu, and I'm paying Hamidu 15 million, that's a giveaway. And that's how we've got to look at it, you know. But if we are saying, oh, the president earns 3,000, so you cannot earn more than this, then we are contributing to the problem. So yes, we have to reward our people.
Well, Mr. Joe Wimpo, thanks for the education.
You're most welcome. Yes.
Some interesting comments there on the 2016 Auditor General's report, bringing us to business on News Desk. Stay with us.